Performing live, please welcome to the stage from the Bronx School of Music, Jason Afovi.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jason Afovi, and I am 10 years old. I come from the Bronx in New York. Today, I'll be playing two classical pieces for you. The first one will be Polonaise in G minor by Chopin, and the second one will be Mozart in C major. Enjoy.
please give a warm welcome to the Executive Vice President, AFT, Evelyn De Jesus.
Good afternoon, everyone. Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a todos. All right, you're looking beautiful out there. Everyone, please, another round of applause for the very talented Jason Afori. Welcome to the AFT Teach Conference 2025. I'm Evelyn De Jesus, your National Executive Vice President, and it is such an honor to welcome you to Washington, D.C. and to teach our signature professional learning conference for educators and by educators. All right. Each one of you represents the heart of our union. Committed, creative, courageous. Whether this is your first teach or your 10th, this is your space. A space to connect, a space to learn, to be inspired, and to leave more empowered than ever before. I want to begin by acknowledging that we are gathering on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Nukatatank people, the original stewards of this region. We honor their legacy, their contributions, and their ongoing presence. May this acknowledgement ground us in our shared responsibility to pursue justice, not only in our classrooms, but in all our communities. I also want to take a moment to recognize the incredible advocacy that took place right here in Washington yesterday. We had more than 110 rank and file members from 22 states and territories participating in one of our largest ever Teach Lobby Days. They met with the Democrat and Republican lawmakers to speak out against education cuts, fight for teacher pay, and defend the resources our students need to thrive. Thank you to everyone who showed up, who shared their stories, and made your voices heard on Capitol Hill. You are the power behind this union. Now, a few quick but important housekeeping reminders. I need you to listen. First, please look at the screen. This is our AFT Code of Conduct, and it's also in your program. We are committed to maintaining a safe, inclusive, and respectful environment for everyone here. If you experience or witness anything that feels unsafe or uncomfortable, please reach out to an AFT staff member. We're here to support you. Second, your badge is your all-access pass to everything I teach, the workshops, the general sessions, the receptions, and special events. Please wear them at all times. And third, a reminder to stay alert. And listen to me very carefully. This is important. We've seen bad actors try to disrupt events like this, approaching people in public spaces, you know where, baiting them into controversial conversations while secretly recording. These clips are often deceptively edited to push false narratives and attack public education. So, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, step away and let an AFT staff know, and we'll take care of it. That said, if you do not want to engage in conversation, let's do it together. Join us on social media using hashtags Protect Our Kids and Teach25. And don't forget to download the AFT app to view or modify your schedule, find your way around, and get real-time updates. You also find this information in your printed program. So I just want to give honor where honor is due. I want to give a great, huge thank you to our staff, AFT Educational Staff Issues Department. Stand up for a minute. Who have worked incredibly tireless to put this incredible conference together. But we're always looking to make it better. So, in order to make it better, help us make the next Teach conference even more amazing by submitting your conference evaluations. And this is a little surprise. Each evaluation that you complete counts as an entry to win one of the 5 great prizes. I'm not going to tell you what they are. Just click on your profile in the Teach app or on the CVEN website and then select surveys. And in just a moment, you'll hear from our fearless leader, my president, and your president, Randi Weingarten. That's right. And throughout this conference, you'll also hear from AFT members and leaders sharing stories that speak to the passion, to the power, and to the purpose of our union. Many of these stories have been lifted up through AFT Voices, our ongoing program spotlighting the incredible work happening in classrooms and communities all over this country. Whether through blogs, through social media, or video, AFT Voices celebrates the people who make public education thrive. And we're lucky to hear from some of them in person here at Teach. These voices are bold, they are inspiring, and they remind us why this work matters so deeply. And speaking of bold voices, we are honored to be joined today by someone who has never, ever wavered in her fight for working families, for public education, and for our democracy. In a year of unprecedented attacks on working people and the unions that represent them, Senator Mazie Hirono has stood up as a fierce, principled champion for our values. Just this spring, she reintroduced the Public Service Freedom to Negotiate Act, a vital bill to guarantee collective bargaining rights for public employees nationwide. That's right. Give it up. Give it up. Because she knows that when we stand together, we can fight for better lives and stronger communities. Again and again, she has pushed back on efforts to defund our schools and dismantle public services. Just yesterday, she led a Senate hearing to expose the real cause of these cuts, how they hurt students, how they hurt families, and the very foundation of our public institutions. And earlier this month, when the Senate considered that big, ugly appropriations bill, it was Senator Hirono who led the charge to strip out a provision that would have spent billions launching the first ever national school voucher program. Her amendment came just one vote short of victory, but she showed us what leadership, gift, and courage look like. Senator Hirono reminds us not to back down. She reminds us that this fight for a great public education for every child, and dignity and fairness for working families is worth waging and worth winning. Please join me in welcoming a true champion of public education and working people, Senator Mazie Hirono.
I'm not supposed to be up here yet, but before we introduce the senator, I have a little breaking news, which is this, that remember on June 30th, by the way, hi everybody. Remember on June 30th, there was a bunch of money that was supposed to be allocated to schools. Remember that? It was about $7 billion. And it was going for after-school programs, summer programs, some teacher training, services for English language learners, for migrant kids. And Linda McMahon stopped it. And she said, what? Boo! And she was like, oh, this is not this administration's priorities. This money had been appropriated by the Congress. And it had been signed by the president in February. That's right, exactly. And we fought back, and you fought back, and Senator Hirono and her Senate colleagues fought back, and as they were on the floor for all those hours, they got some of their—
27 hours.
27 to be exact. They got, as they were fighting that big bad bill, they got some of their Republican colleagues to help them, and today, literally 20 minutes ago, the administration backed down, and we are getting the money. You're lobbying. Those of you who lobbied yesterday, thank you. Those of you who brought the lawsuit, thank you. Politics does matter. Thank you. And the leader in that fight was Senator Mazie Hirono.
Okay, thank you. One thing we can count on from Randy is she gets everybody riled up. And I tell you, this is what we all need to be, riled up against an administration that is intent on getting rid of all federal support for public education. Now, I stand before you as an immigrant kid who came to this country because of a courageous mother who wanted to create a better life for herself and her 3 children. I come here, I didn't know any English, I didn't know anything. So, of course I understand the foundational importance of education and why we need to fight back. So your voices matter. Do you think that this administration, who basically doesn't give a rip about public schools or our kids, would have done what they did 20 effing minutes ago? If your voices had not been out there? So yes, give yourself a pat on the back, but you know it's not over. These are not normal times. This is an administration that basically wants to get rid of, as I said, federal support for public schools, and they would like to get rid of the Department of Education. They started by firing half of the staff, which led to a lawsuit, which led to the U.S. Supreme Court saying, oh yeah, Mr. President, you can do that, but you know what? The district court will still have to decide whether the firing was done appropriately, but in the meantime, you can go ahead. So it's like fire first, restore later. Does that make any sense to you? Of course not. This is called abuse of power, and that is what this administration does at every turn. It's not just the Department of Education, but it is across the board, this effort to dismantle government services that our communities and our families count on. But focusing, once again, on education, I can hardly breathe sometimes, the stuff that this administration is up to. We should not have had to fight for them to release $5 billion that our schools have been waiting on. You know, the chaos and the uncertainty that this administration loves to put out there will be more of it, and this is why we have to be ever alert. So I chair one of the efforts in the Senate focusing on support for education. I've had 2 what we call spotlight hearings, and Randy has been a very big part of both, and I had one yesterday, and Randy was there, and I tell you, I said after she got through with her presentation, I said, you make me want to stand up and go, yeah! Okay, so when you hear from her all, 45 minutes or something, I don't know, but whatever it is, you have a leader who is completely committed to our schools, to our public schools, and that's what I'm counting on each of you for. And I don't know if you know about the voucher program. They managed to pass in the big, terrible bill. I call it 1,000 pages of pain, except for the richest people in our country who are getting their huge tax breaks, but for pretty much everybody else, it's pain. And they managed to get through the first ever nationwide private school voucher program. And when the first iteration of it was that there was going to be a tax credit matching $1 for $1 contributions made to a voucher program. There was basically no limit. You could either contribute $5,000 or 10% of your gross income. So if you made a $10 million in gross income, you could contribute $1 million of that and get back $1 million in tax credit, mainly going to private school vouchers. First ever nationwide voucher program. And to make it even worse, they were going to, this first iteration would have allowed people to contribute appreciated stocks. So they wouldn't have to pay any taxes on the appreciation. It was so terrible. And the only limit was that some $4 billion, there was a maximum amount that could be contributed to this first ever voucher program, $4 billion that could go towards supporting our public schools. But the Republicans, they're very intent on supporting a private school voucher program. So by the time we got through with shining a light, because my first spotlight hearing was shining a light on how terrible this nationwide voucher program would be in misdirecting money that should be going to public schools to go into private school voucher programs, which will not increase parental choice, by the way, or school choice. In fact, yesterday, all this stuff about they're returning the decision-making to the local schools with all the things that they're doing to cut back on federal support. And at yesterday's spotlight hearing, I said, this is such bullshit. That was live streamed, by the way. So we have to fight back. And I tell you, some of my friends, they know I swear quite a bit. And I say that with everything that's going on, if you are not moved to swearing once in a while, you are not paying attention. Okay? And really, elections matter. When people say politics and elections, or especially politics, don't matter, we get this guy. And that is why it matters. That is why your advocacy, your showing up and meeting with legislators, and really they need to feel the wrath, soon to be wrath, I hope, from all the parents out there, millions and millions of parents out there who are just maybe finding out that this administration doesn't give a rip about support for public schools. And it is part of our responsibility to make sure they find out about that and to fight back, to be mobilized and do all the things we need so that they don't fool around with holding back billions of federal dollars that should be coming to our schools. And so I thank you very much. As we say in Hawaii, mahalo nui loa, you know that you have a partner in me in fighting back. So stay strong. Aloha. Thank you.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I do feel that I'm a little bit above my pay grade right now. And I also want to just thank Jason for reminding us all why we're here. Because, gosh, it's just so beautiful to see a young person displaying such excellence and such poise. My name is Marjorie Harrison. I'm a former social studies teacher and librarian and a proud AFT retiree from New York. I am here today because for the past 5 years, I have volunteered with the AFT's retiree and political departments. This has been one of the best retirement decisions I've made. My group of online retiree phone bankers is called the Afterburners. Since 2020, we've been making calls to members on issues like Social Security and on behalf of endorsed candidates. I have spoken with literally hundreds of wonderful AFT members across the country. We are building our union through conversations, and we're having a great time doing it. Whether phone banking, text banking, postcarding, or going door to door, here's what inspires me. This past fall, I had an amazing conversation with a retired teacher, military veteran. He was in the throes of a heartbreaking family rift over the Harris-Trump contest. His son was adamantly pro-Trump, while he saw Trump as a threat to everything he thought he had gone to war to protect. He was in anguish. Our 15-minute heart-to-heart felt like the best possible medicine for him. Would we be in agreement on all the issues? Probably not. But what we shared was way more meaningful. What we shared was that our lives, our livelihoods, our ability to care for ourselves and our families was transformed and enhanced by our union membership. We benefited from better pay, better health care, better working conditions, better retirement security, better family medical leave provisions, and more. Unionism improved our lives and changed us for the better. What we had in common was that we both had careers where we didn't have to stand alone. We were part of a powerful unity, a union which is up to the task of taking on what can be a brutal labor economy here in the U.S. While our lives aren't easy, as union members, we are amongst the best positioned working people in our country. I know that you are all busy, and you are already spending part of your summer here. Still, I am asking you to consider deepening your connection with the AFT even more. Take phone banking. It's such an accessible way to be involved. It might seem awkward to call someone out of the blue, but the union connection is instantaneous. Conversing feels comfortable. Our political department developed a phone banking script where we started each call by asking the person what issues are important to them. Yes, it can be discouraging when someone hangs up, but we found that people generally like being asked their opinion. The AFT has a diverse membership, and that extends to politics. But the cordial calls greatly outnumber any bummers. There's nothing more persuasive than authenticity, and there's nothing more authentic than AFT activists introducing ourselves as union volunteers, whether that's when making wellness check-in calls or doing neighborhood canvassing to get out the vote. What I ask is that you add to your to-do list some volunteering for AFT Political each November. Training is built into the process, and the AFT staff does a great job. Please, take advantage of these opportunities. Have an adventure as a union canvasser. Make friends from across the land. Revel in the knowledge that you are part of a grand undertaking to preserve our democracy as a living, breathing reality. Now, more than ever, the AFT needs you. Thank you.
afternoon, everyone. I'm Melinda Person, president of NYSUT, New York State United Teachers, and I'm proud to share how we work to pass a state law here in New York in support of phone-free schools. This did not come out of nowhere. It started with what we were hearing, loud and clear, from our members across the state. Students were glued to their phones, attention spans were shrinking, and meaningful instruction was constantly being interrupted by texts, by TikTok, and other distractions that are literally designed to be addictive. We listened, we researched, and we organized. We convened panels of educators, gathered stories from the field, and partnered with parents and pediatricians to make the case that this isn't just an annoyance, it's an educational emergency. Students are not only learning less, they're feeling worse about themselves. They have increased anxiety, disrupted sleep, and a deep sense of disconnection. A disconnection from learning and from each other. We reached out to parents, many of whom were already worried about what their kids were experiencing. We reached out to law enforcement. They were seeing how phones were being used for bullying, for harassment, and for inciting violence in our schools. And what we found was common ground. Everyone wanted our schools to be safe, to be focused, and to be centered on learning. We took that message to Albany, and we made sure legislators heard directly from classroom teachers. Many of those NYSUT members are here today in this room. Thank you so much for all of your work on this. And we did not stop there. We framed this not as punishment of our students, but as a tool for restoring focus, connection, and equity. Oh, and by the way, we won. New York became the largest state to enact a statewide cell phone ban with flexibility for use for instructional purposes and medical needs, but with a very clear baseline. Our time at school is sacred. This is about reclaiming our schools and protecting our kids. Because our kids deserve to learn in a space that's centered on human connection, not algorithmic distraction. And teachers deserve classrooms where they're not competing with a screen every second of the day. This was a win for our students, for teachers, and for every adult who believes that kids should have a chance to be kids. Thank you.
Good afternoon, American Federation of Teachers. Buenas tardes a todos. My name is Kent Wong. I'm a vice president of the California Federation of Teachers and a faculty member of the UCLA Labor Center. Can we talk for a minute about what we as educators, what we as an education union must do at this critical time to protect our kids and our communities? At the UCLA Labor Center, I have been working with immigrant students for more than 20 years. Last month, we had a special graduation for our UCLA immigrant students to celebrate their extraordinary accomplishments. But their mothers and fathers, their sisters and brothers, were afraid to come to the UCLA graduation because of the risk of being pulled over by ICE agents, thrown to the ground, handcuffed, detained, and deported. In Los Angeles, the Trump administration has deployed 40,000 National Guards, 7,000 Marines against the wishes of our mayor, against the wishes of our governor, and against the wishes of the people of Los Angeles. ICE agents armed with guns, with face masks, without uniforms, and driving unmarked cars are terrorizing immigrant children and their families. Children are afraid to go to school. Parents are afraid to go to work. ICE has raided car washes, Home Depot parking lots, garment factories, farms, hospitals, churches, courts, and they even went to elementary schools in Los Angeles trying to grab our children. They lied to the teachers claiming they had permission from the students' parents. But fortunately, our teachers turned them away and would not allow them on campus. Mass detention and mass deportation are unconstitutional, an abuse of power, a violation of due process, and constitute blatant racial profiling. We have seen this before in our history. But teachers are standing up and protecting our children and building mass resistance. The United Teachers of Los Angeles, the California Federation of Teachers are distributing Know Your Rights information cards, mobilizing rapid response to protect our children and their families. On July 10th, more than 1,400 people mobilized in the Los Angeles Convention Center for the largest nonviolent training in the history of Los Angeles, perhaps the history of this country. We assert that nonviolence is more powerful than violence, and that the power of justice is more powerful than the forces of tyranny, hatred, and racism. AFT now offers a variety of mobilization trainings to members through their affiliates, and we have one taking place tomorrow afternoon. Please join us. And to learn more, please check on the link on the screen. So, sisters and brothers of AFT, let us carry on the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the spirit of Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. Let us stand together to stop deportations, to create a beloved community, to allow each child in this country to live with peace and with justice. Thank you.
Every day across America, our members bring to life a bold vision for public education. Schools that are safe and welcoming, relevant and engaging, that build a better future for all. Our educators work with parents, districts, and unions to make public schools places rooted in opportunity, affordability, and dignity.
We don't need just all doctors and lawyers, right? Having a career and tech ed school in the community is vital. Programs like this break cycles of poverty.
We're doing Stadium Food Friday. Loaded baked potatoes and chili. When a youngster has a skill, it's not all about our job. People do dumb stuff sometimes when they don't have options.
You gotta have the kind of experiential learning that you're doing. Because we've got to get kids to say, I want to be here.
Yeah.
And I got a skill out of it.
This is my 7th grade class, and we are in the middle of an open cook. We have a garden, we have a greenhouse, we have our classroom space, we have a kitchen space. It's off season right now, so we have our groceries. Kids have shopped online, they have budgeted.
We do activities that are hands-on, which are fun, like actual activities that we enjoy as a class. 2, 3.
In New York, AFT has facilitated a unique partnership between the union, the state, and Micron, a semiconductor manufacturer planning a major plant near Syracuse.
Okay, so far so good.
The Micron initiative is to expand microchip production in America and using our high schools, our career and technical education high schools, to create a pipeline.
So now, unplug one part of that lamp.
It's probably one of the most fun classes in here, and it's one of the only classes I'm actually going to use in my future.
It's the way CTE should be done nationally.
Microsoft, OpenAI, and Anthropic, they're all teaming up with the American Federation of Teachers to offer free AI training to AFT members.
What teachers are clamoring for, Andrew, is the tools so that they use AI wisely, safely, and ethically.
How do we know this is okay for someone of this age and that age, centered around AI?
I love that we're being proactive.
We have this opportunity to just talk and connect and really, play with the technology. And this is a great way to build capacity at our local and I'm like, what are we doing next, guys? How are we taking this forward?
Community schools are the key to making public education work because it gives everybody a stake in the game.
So this is our dental clinic, a little sensory area, so it's like a wellness suite. We have a clothing closet.
I have a big group of parent volunteers that are here consistently. They're helping with food pantry, with our clothing closet.
Las puertas de la escuela están abiertas para mi hija, para mi familia.
I want to make the school that everyone wants to go.
We believe that every student can learn with the correct resources and support to be a contributing member to their community.
Dreams are coming true every single day as we give out our 10th million book. We are doing something about sparking the love of reading. 10 million books!
So we're here to get some more books. We're so excited. This is a great event.
I'm here today at the Hart School in New Orleans, giving out thousands of bilingual books. As you see, bilingualism is our superpower, so we want to spread that superpower all over.
As our schools, locals, and unions work to make this vision for opportunity, affordability, and dignity in public education a reality, we now face a political movement determined to tear that vision down. Dissolving the Department of Education, attacking immigrants, robbing working families to pay billionaires, and weakening the foundations of our democracy. With so much at stake, who stands up for us? Too many in Congress are complicit or simply afraid. The Supreme Court routinely rubber stamps attacks on our rights. And the media serves its billionaire owners, not the public good. We shouldn't have to fight so hard for such basic rights, but our members and affiliates are stepping up to protect our kids, their schools, and their communities.
There are over 2,000 actions like this around the country to protect our kids and protect our public schools.
What democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like!
We have heard absolutely nothing about raising wages, nothing about cutting prices.
We will not be erased. We will not let our immigrant friends be erased.
Our work is clear. We will fight to protect our kids. We will fight to fund our schools.
We stand here today as part of a national day of action.
These cuts are to benefit the wealthiest Americans.
When our democracy is under attack, what do we do?
People right now are feeling a little overwhelmed. That's understandable. But I need you to know right now, it's going to be the labor movement. It's going to be unions that stand up.
Private school vouchers, Texas educators say, hell no.
We decided to come out here today because protecting our rights to have a public sector union is very, very important. Without a union and without solidarity throughout teaching, we are actually not only shorting the employees, but the kids.
Today is May Day. It's the day of the worker. It's the day of the immigrant.
Do not come into our schools to take our students.
We are fighting for our babies.
Stand up, fight back.
Children cannot be collateral damage in this war.
Like we asking for more. Let's go. Time is a goal. It's where my mind is. I got my both eyes on the goal. It's where you find it. We're ready at all times.
It
can feel isolating sometimes watching the news, and you feel a lot of despair. And it's so powerful to see thousands of people coming together across the country, across the world.
The humanity of every student and every family, no matter where they came from.
Their attacks on public education are relentless. And why? Because they fear knowledge. They fear us because we teach critical thinking. We teach honest history. Because their brand of greed and power and privilege cannot survive in a democracy of diverse, educated citizens.
Please welcome the president of AFT, Randi Weingarten.
I'm back. So I'm trying to arrange the water, my little props. Look, I have never looked forward to a Teach conference as much as I have this year. Look, we had those speakers before us, the breaking news, but really, it's because of you, the educators in this room, the educators of our nation. It has been a tough year. I don't know if there's ever been one that's been more challenging. Yet you, and I want you to hear this, you make a difference in students' lives no matter what. You build your students' confidence to think independently and with creativity. You help each student realize their potential. You create community in our classrooms, our schools, our neighborhoods. You are our nation's future makers. Yes. Okay, you could clap for yourselves. It is only in a room of teachers and other educators that I have to remind you to clap for yourself. Because you do all of this as you deal with everything from budget cuts to culture wars, with class sizes that are way too high and salaries that are way too low, and amid such divisiveness right now. And you've done this while officials whose job it is to support teaching and learning make your jobs harder. And even our ability to make our classrooms welcoming spaces has gotten harder. I think about, and I know we'll show this, I think about these signs, the everyone is welcome here, you see it up here? I bet a whole bunch of you have this sign in your classroom. So there was the teacher in Idaho who was ordered to remove this sign that she had in her classroom for years, the everyone is welcome here sign with all the hands. She was told by her administration this year that this was a political opinion, not a sacrosanct responsibility. Can you imagine that reassuring children that they are in a safe, welcoming space is now an act of insubordination? Being an educator will be even more challenging next year. And yes, it's great that we just got that great breaking news. But it's going to be more challenging next year because of the law that President Trump and Republicans call big and beautiful. Yes, that is a great reaction to it. Because think about what Trump thinks as big and beautiful. It's big, but it's anything but beautiful, and it will have devastating effects on all of us. But think particularly about how it betrays the very people who voted for Trump, hoping he would deliver on the better life he promised. And so I'm just taking a couple of seconds to talk about what's in this bill, what he thinks is beautiful. Taking food from children in need, ripping health care away from millions of Americans, eliminating good jobs in clean energy and manufacturing, defunding public education and making it harder for low-income students to afford college, making Americans sicker, hungrier, and poorer, and adding trillions to the deficit. And for what? For what? Tax cuts for the very, very rich. So, yeah, President Trump delivered all right, just not for working folks. Do wealthy people need more tax breaks? Here's an idea. How about a working class tax cut instead? Think about what this bill would mean for your classrooms. Children coming to school with even more needs and fewer resources to support them. And despite all of this, despite everything that has happened this year, despite this new bill, despite everything that's thrown at you, you're still inspiring. You still prod our kids, push them to be the best they can be. You provide love and support because you are the future makers. You are the nation builders. So that's why, for me, being in this community, seeing all of you, you give me great hope. So, and sorry about my voice. So I want to talk about, for the rest of the speech, how we fight back and how we fight for a better life as educators, as workers, trade unionists, and as Americans, and why we must be beacons for our communities as never before. Because we are in a moment like never before. This government is attacking the foundations of our humanity: healthcare, food security, education, research to cure deadly diseases, Social Security that keeps the elderly and the vulnerable out of destitution, masked agents. Let me take a little water here. I have been having cough drops all day, but thank you. You just don't want me to have it and then spit it out. Mass agents are disappearing people. Yes, you just heard Kent, disappearing them. People just trying to do an honest day's work. And we're not talking about hardened criminals. Even our students aren't safe, like the high school student arrested by ICE on his way to volleyball practice, or the teen who was detained as he headed to a school field trip. So many Americans are anxious and struggling to get by. So we need an agenda of affordability, opportunity, and dignity, and a pathway to a better life for everyone. Yet, President Trump, he's making life harder for everyone. Sorry, with one exception, the billionaires who bankrolled his campaign and are now enjoying a return on their investment. Think about the president's trade war. It's making everyday goods more expensive, and it's crushing small businesses. And the war on workers? Stripping collective bargaining from more than 1 million federal workers. This is what he's doing, what President Trump is doing. He's pursuing an agenda of chaos, corruption, and cruelty. and of contempt for what we do as educators. There is a war on knowledge, on teaching the truth, on your autonomy, on pluralism, and you, and not just our members, NEA members and teachers across this country are on the front lines. But as every historian in this room will tell you, and every historian we read will tell us, this is what autocrats do. They've done it throughout history, and they do it in the world today. Vladimir Putin has said, wars are won by teachers. It's a grudging acknowledgement of the importance of our profession, and it's an unveiled threat. Now, no one is surprised that Putin, like other authoritarians, has purged schools and universities of non-loyalists and has had curricula and textbooks rewritten to whitewash past and present wrongs. But we should be alarmed and outraged that we are seeing authoritarian tactics here in America. Educators in schools from pre-K to higher education are under attack for teaching American history, for promoting excellence and equity, for valuing freedom of thought, and for protecting all children's right to learn free from fear, and for seeing all of God's children for the precious souls they are. Why? Why this relentless attack on public schools and teachers? The perpetrators of these attacks fear what we do. They fear the teaching of reading and of reason. They fear the teaching of critical thinking. They fear the teaching of honest history and of pluralism, because their brand of greed and power and privilege cannot survive in a democracy of diverse, educated citizens. And that's why this moment, I've been thinking about this for a long time. I thought about it ever since Chris Rufo said that to get to universal vouchers, you have to create universal public school distrust. So that's why this moment compelled me to write a book, Why Fascists Fear Teachers. And I warn in it about the dangers of this attack on knowledge and pluralism, and I spell out the ways we can fight back to defend critical thinking, to defend opportunity, and to defend democracy. Because we know that the route to the American dream goes through our public schools. That public schools are the embodiment of America's civic values and democratic ideals. That all young people should have opportunities to prepare for life, for college, for career, and for citizenship. And in a pluralistic society, people with different beliefs and backgrounds, they have to learn to bridge differences and to work together. That happens in our public schools. And as the founders advocated, educated citizens are essential to protect our democracy from demagogues. But at this moment, public education is at a precipice. Donald Trump and his allies don't just want to abolish the Department of Education, they are laying waste to public education. They're gutting funding for key personnel and programs so public schools can't function properly. And they are also waging a full-scale assault on higher education, attacking both autonomy and affordability. And we are engaged in a full-scale fight back. Think about America's colleges. America's colleges and universities are incubators of innovation and discovery. They are both the envy of the world and are indispensable to the communities in which they're located. And recent polling just this week demonstrates that young people really want them
to be accessible and affordable. But evidently, people in power right now don't see it that way. Remember what Trump and Education Secretary Linda McMahon did this year with that Dear Colleague letter. They tried to pull federal funding, Title I and IDEA in particular, from schools where they thought there was a whiff of equity, diversity, or inclusion. Our lawsuit stopped that. Now, I was going to say a few hours ago that Trump and McMahon are illegally withholding more than $7 billion in K-12 funds that was to start next week, funding that Congress authorized and that schools obligated. But today, they backed down. And just let me say, a whole lot of you were lobbying on the Hill yesterday. So, our lobbying, our lawsuits, we had several of our state federations take this lawsuit. Our advocacy for why these funds matter to kids, it all worked. But we're not stopping. We stood with Senators Bernie Sanders and Ed Markey this week as they, many of you were there, as they introduced their bills calling for fair pay for teachers and school staff. Because no one should have to endure poverty to serve in the profession that makes all other professions possible. So I want to just say again, thank you to those of you who lobbied Congress yesterday. But it's also not just Trump and McMahon. The majority on the Supreme Court has allowed Trump to proceed with these mass firings at the Department of Education. We stopped it for a long time. And he's setting in place his plans to dismantle the department. Now, they did it on something called a shadow docket. But Justice Sotomayor, in her dissent, understood, yeah, we should clap for her. She understood, she said in her dissent, that this would unleash untold harm for students. And she warned that this action of trampling on Congress is a grave threat to the Constitution's separation of powers. But as Senator Hirono just said, Trump and his congressional majority have now gone for the jugular. Because this big, ugly tax law, sorry, I'm calling it the big, ugly betrayal. It includes a nationwide voucher program. Evelyn talked about it before. But this is what it does. It's an unprecedented and uncapped tax credit that will hurt students in public schools and, get this, could cost taxpayers more than $50 billion a year, which is nearly double what the federal government now spends on helping poor kids and kids with disabilities. They are literally taking money away from our most vulnerable students for a tax credit for the rich to use on vouchers. I don't know how much more evidence you need, but this administration has abandoned students in public schools. Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and George Washington championed public education as a public good. And as imperfect as they are, public schools are where we create opportunity and community for all, not just some. So let me ask you, are we going to let the likes of Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, Linda McMahon, and the architects of Project 2025 end public education as we know it? No! Let me hear that again. And not just this room, but people are with us. Americans support public schools, and they want them strengthened, not defunded or dismantled. The majority disapprove of the president's agenda, his economic agenda, his education agenda, now even his immigration agenda. There's a movement growing by the day saying this is not us. We don't want these cuts, this chaos, this cruelty. None of this is helping working people have a better life. 5 million people, including many of you in this room, took to the streets for the No Kings protests in one of the largest demonstrations in American history. Because, as if you go to the training on MOVE, if you've heard me at all in the last few months, being on the streets, standing up for our values is the most effective way to reverse this slide towards authoritarianism. So, what more do we do as educators and as unionists? First, we continue to be who we are as future makers, educating and nurturing our students so all children can achieve their dreams. The work you do is the most important work in our society. But we can't just close our classroom doors and hope what is happening on the outside never makes its way inside. We have to fight back against these attacks on our students, on our schools, and our way of life. And I know sometimes that's really scary. And at the same time, we must imagine a bold vision for our public schools and a better life for working people and fight for it. Fight for it at the bargaining table and on the streets. Fight for it at the local school board and at the State House. Fight for it here in Washington and at the ballot box. Fight for a better future that gives people hope, builds connection, and overcomes the authoritarian threat we face. A future that people can see, they can feel, and that they believe is possible. So, I want to focus on that for a few minutes. I thought long and hard about, particularly for all of you who are doing the poll of how long my speech is, I thought long and hard about, how to combine two things that we had to do at the same time. I did tell one person how long it was. But I want to focus, but I'm not telling you who I told. I want to focus on what that vision looks like for our public schools. And it boils down to 4 words: safe, welcoming, relevant, and engaging. These words represent what parents want for their children, and frankly, what I've heard from all of you about wanting for our students. And you've told me this is what I love about our members: you are not shy. You told me this in my visits to classrooms and to schools and to communities across the country. And it's a vision we can build on in every community, red, blue, or purple. So first, we know from brain science that safe and welcoming schools aren't just a good idea for kids' well-being, they're essential to success in school. People can't learn when they are hungry or stressed out. Schools must be places where students and families and educators are safe, supported, and accepted. Yet we know that too many students do not feel safe, whether because of loneliness, anxiety, depression, gun violence, immigration status, or countless other reasons. That's why you do, I've seen it, everything in our power to create safe and welcoming spaces. And one way the AFT does it is promoting community schools. They are, for those of you who don't know, a research-backed way we serve all students, particularly the most vulnerable, by bringing services and activities they and their families need under one roof. Community schools can be open all day and offer after-school and evening recreational activities and homework assistance. They can offer childcare and medical care and other services the communities need, like English language instruction, like GED programs, or even legal assistance. The common thread is that they help students and families learn and thrive. But President Trump's budget zeroes out funding for community schools. And current grantees, they're having their grants reviewed for any trace of addressing social emotional learning, trauma, or equity, which, of course, is a gotcha because the proposals were required to include those components. Exactly. Look, I have to address the elephant in the room, which is hate. Whether it's racism, homophobia, Islamophobia, or anti-Semitism, hate has no place in our schools. And hear me out. We must do everything we can to ensure that the Palestinian student or the Jewish teacher or the parent from another country feels safe and welcome in our schools, no matter what is happening in the world. And we can't let other forces which want to deny the existence of discrimination in some quarters act to weaponize it in others. So, creating safe and welcoming environments, it ensures that students are ready to learn. It creates an environment that says our schools are our community. But students also need a well-rounded education that develops important skills and exposes them to a wide range of ideas and knowledge, and obviously prepares them for college, career, and life. And that's where relevant and engaging comes in. So let's start in the earliest years. In education, the basics are a big thing. And what's more fundamental than reading? Reading and writing and oral communication, they're essential skills students need in school, as citizens, and in the world of work. And we know, you all know this, when students become strong readers when they are young, they are more likely to be successful later in life. And that's why, as many of you have done with us, the AFT gives out books. We've given out more than 10 million books so far, many. And as long as we got the money, we keep on doing it. Many at community events across the country through our partnership with First Book. Yes. And then there's the how-tos of teaching reading. Because for a quarter of a century, the AFT has been advocating for evidence-based reading instruction and putting professional development, publications, and partnerships behind it. That's in some ways how the Teach Conference started. This year, we added training for teachers to strengthen the vital family-school connection with workshops and tools to promote reading at home, whether it's through read-alouds and everyday conversations for young readers, or questions to spark engagement and deepen understanding in the teen years. And our affiliates in Minnesota and Ohio and Texas are already running with this strategy. Yes. And this year, we've added 2 courses on dyslexia. Something people have asked for and need. A 3-hour grounding in key signs of dyslexia and practical tools to help kids read, and a multi-day deep dive into the full range of instructional strategies. But speaking about teaching stuff, everybody always wants me to use better pedagogical phrases, but for me, it's about teaching stuff. Sorry. I hear from members over and over again that they need a place where they can find it, when they need it, and what they need. So give me what I need, when I need it, right now. Does that sound familiar? So we got two. We have AFT's ever-growing Share My Lesson, which houses all of our literacy resources and will soon have a hub for parents and community. And we're proud to partner with WETA, that's right, public broadcasting, on Reading Universe, which we announced 2 years ago, and it has become a one-stop shop on teaching reading right. And in less than 2 years, Reading Universe has grown to more than 40,000 unique visitors every month, and it gets bigger and better every day. And coming soon is a series for paraprofessionals on the science of reading that is being piloted by AFT members. So, I often say that joy is important. So is play. Play is proven to support, yes, play is important. Play is proven to support cognitive development, and it helps kids with skills like cooperation, empathy, and even conflict resolution. It supports the kind of engagement we know kids need, and that's why recess is so important. Who wants the ball? As kids get older, both curriculum and engagement get more challenging. And just like I've been a broken record on community schools, I am even more of a broken record on project-based instruction. Because project-based instruction and experiential learning helps students learn how to solve problems, how to analyze and synthesize data, and how to apply learning to new situations, knowledge and skills people need whatever they do in life. And for those of you who have led us into your schools and your classrooms, you know that high-quality career and tech education is an incredible model of experiential learning. And 95% of students who concentrate in CTE graduate from high school, and 70% go to college. So, before she was education secretary, Linda McMahon claimed to be a big proponent of CTE. But she seems too busy cutting services for kids, sending student loan borrowers to debt collectors, and attacking trans kids. So we're not going to wait for Linda McMahon or for anybody else to push for these transformational programs. We're working to expand CTE to more students, partnering with more employers, community colleges, unions, and others to prepare students for potential careers in healthcare, information technology, advanced manufacturing, and traditional trades. 3 examples since our last Teach conference. 1, we worked with CareerWise to launch the Education and Apprenticeship Accelerator, a groundbreaking partnership that dramatically expands apprenticeship opportunities for youth across the United States. 2, the AFT, UFT, and NYSET have partnered with Micron on an advanced technology framework to help high school students hone the foundational skills, yep, they are in the room, necessary for career success in the booming semiconductor industry. And 3, we are about to announce a partnership with the World Economic Forum to create a curriculum that will lead to good jobs and solid careers in U.S. manufacturing. And remember what I said before. This is not an either-or. This is a both-and. College and career. The goal of education should be to cultivate the skills necessary to succeed in our rapidly changing world, not to create good test takers. And that will require our education system to move beyond the stifling accountability models that narrow what teachers can teach, that condemn kids to low-quality, high-stakes standardized tests and excessive test prep, and that do nothing to improve learning. I want the people from outside the room to hear me. I'm not proposing less rigor. To the contrary, all students need a rich and challenging education that lets them learn by doing. Assessment should allow students to demonstrate their skills and knowledge, including through performance-based tasks like essays, oral presentations, building of models, podcasts, film, or other demonstrations. But that's all too rare, because for the last 25 years, since No Child Left Behind, standardized tests are too often, and the scores are too often, the be-all and the end-all. So, the strategies we're advocating, focusing on reading, wrapping services around schools, project-based instruction, these are not shiny new objects. They're just good ideas that help kids succeed, and they need to be scaled and resourced. So, Mr. Trump, hear me out. If you really believed that local school districts and states should be in charge of education, as frankly they have always been, then maybe you and Linda McMahon should spend some time listening to educators who are always focused on what helps kids. So, while these solutions may not be new, the distractions caused by these devices are. Yes, it's my cover, but you can see it's my device. We are facing a crisis of engagement in our schools, a crisis that's compounded by screens and social media. And we're competing for students' attention against intentionally addictive algorithms designed to distract young users. I was supposed to have all 3 books here. I'm into books today, as you can see. As professor and author of The Anxious Generation, and by the way, he's going to do one of our book clubs at the end of August. So, as Jonathan Haidt says, cell phones and social media are making our kids sedentary, solitary, anxious, and depressed. Now, you heard Melinda before, because states like New York have led, with our union leading, on combating this through a bell-to-bell ban on phones in schools to ensure that students are present and engaged and that teachers can teach rather than being the phone police. Yes, we should. Look, Cleveland did this last year. New York is trying this now. Yes, Cleveland's in the house. But speaking of technology, artificial intelligence has and will alter our world in ways we can't imagine. Maybe you can, but I can't. There are legitimate concerns about AI, or A1, as the Secretary calls it. Remember, joy is an act of political and spiritual resistance. But even the Pope, in one of his first public remarks, spoke about the threats of AI to human dignity. But there is also real promise in these tools to save educators time, manage paperwork, personalize instruction, and engage students. This is the question. The real question is, as educators and as a union, will we be able to navigate how AI is used in education, or will it be dictated to us by people outside the profession? Educators must be able to maximize the good and minimize the bad, to use it safely, wisely, and ethically, and to not avoid dealing with the things that are bad about it, including the environmental issues. That's why we first developed, I think I have them here too. We first developed these common sense guardrails. And it's also why we've now launched this National Academy for AI Instruction. Now, we're working, and I'm so grateful to the UFT because they're going to house the initial academy. We're working with UFT and Microsoft as leading partners, and with OpenAI and Anthropic. But let's be clear, we don't go into this with blind trust. But when educators aren't in the driver's seat, we've seen what happens. Others, led by the testing industry, turned our schools into testing factories. And you remember the rollout of social media? We can't make the same mistake with AI. So that's why we're building this training facility in New York City that's going to be open to every AFT member so we can gain the knowledge, the skills, the confidence to use AI responsibly and creatively. Hopefully, the Academy positions educators not just as users of technology, but as leaders in shaping how it's developed and implemented in real classrooms. Because AI should serve our values, support strong instruction, and enhance the work that teachers do, never replace it. And it's clear the Trump administration wants us to have no role in shaping and harnessing this technological train, this change. It's probably a train, too. It's insulting that President Trump signed an executive order saying teachers needed to be trained on AI without involving teachers and while decimating funding for our schools and colleges. They even fought for a 10-year moratorium on any rules of the road or sensible guardrails for AI. We fought that, and we won. So the AI Academy will be where we create a future where technology enhances learning and strengthens the human connection. That human connection that sits at the heart of every great classroom. All of this vision, this is who we are as a union. This is who we are as educators. This is who we are as future makers. Now, I know that many of you are probably thinking, Randy, this all sounds really great. I hope you're thinking it sounds great. But the wolves are at the door. We're facing existential threats. We're in a fight to survive. And that's all true. Because if we don't fight the threats to our freedoms and to our ways of life, these threats will only further encroach on your classroom, your students, and on our profession. But when we fight back, as important as that is, it only gets us back to the place we started. We have to fight for a better life that people feel is authentic and possible, including our members. We're educators. We're used to walking and chewing gum at the same time. And we know our history. The civil rights movement wasn't just about fighting racism and the ravages of Jim Crow. It was about fighting for good jobs, for freedom and opportunity. The progressives of the early 20th century, they weren't just fighting the excesses of the Gilded Age. They were fighting for workers' rights and for safe communities. The New Deal wasn't just about ending the Depression. It was about a new social contract for our nation to have a thriving middle class. Defending democracy and defeating authoritarianism, yes, it requires all of us. And we all have to be engaged. And the AFT is engaged in the courts and the court of public opinion, in the Congress and at the ballot box, on the streets and in our communities, because our future is all on the line. So it may seem like the other side has insurmountable advantages. But think about our founding fathers. Think about the abolitionists. Think about the suffragists. Think about the labor movement. Think about the civil rights movement. The 1963 March on Washington, right here in this city, brought more than 250,000 people from across the country to march for jobs and justice. It changed the trajectory of the civil rights movement. It changed the political environment. It paved the way for massive legislative and social change. And then last year, when the president of South Korea declared martial law, tens of thousands of people took to the streets to protest. It was that massive, people-powered movement that led the government to rescind martial law, hold its president accountable, and push through democratic reforms. It's clear. I hope it's clear to you. But it's clear. We cannot be silent. We cannot stay at home. This is the moment to stand up, speak up, and show up, to be on the streets together, like the 5 million people who took part in the peaceful No Kings protest, where they said, "We will not stand by when democracy is dismantled." And the Protect Our Kids and Hands Off rallies, and the July 17th Good Trouble teach-ins, and what we will do on Labor Day weekend. Because, to paraphrase scripture, no one can do everything, but we all can do something. Being in the streets is how you beat fear. It's how you show people they are not alone. It's how you convince Congress to act. And if they don't do the right thing, it's how you start the process to elect those who will. To elect leaders who care more about their constituents' needs and aspirations than they fear the bullying and the threats of their party's bosses. This, my friends, this, my colleagues, this is how we reclaim the promise of America. We are the future makers. So let's imagine that better future and fight like hell to make it a reality. Imagine fully funded public schools and the freedom to provide the learning you know engages and excites your students instead of the straitjacket of standardized tests. Imagine teachers and support staff being paid what they deserve. Imagine an economy that gives every American a path to the middle class and a vibrant life. Imagine a government that cuts taxes for the working class, not for the rich, and that recognizes that health care is a human right. I know each one of us has a vision of a better future that's worth fighting for. We must do it. It takes power to challenge power. Throughout our union, we have collective power. We build and use our power for good, both to fight back and to fight for a better life, for opportunity and dignity for all. That's what public education does. That's what the labor movement does. Building community, caring, fighting, showing up and voting, because the people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. People united will never be defeated. We can say divided or defeated. The people, I want to hear you say it. The people
united will never be defeated.
Showing up, making good trouble. And as I close, for those doing the poll, as I close, I again find myself thinking of Martin Luther King, specifically his final book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? We are in a time of trouble and chaos. Fear, anxiety, chaos. Those were familiar feelings to Dr. King. And he asked which path America would take: chaos or community, inequality or opportunity for all. Well, we, the educators of America, the future makers, the freedom lovers, we choose community. We serve and strengthen our communities, and we know that together we can achieve what is impossible to do alone. So none of us asked for this fight, but fight we must for our students, for public education, for our colleges, for our communities, for freedom and democracy, for affordability and opportunity, for dignity, for a better life for all. So, are you ready to fight the chaos and cruelty? Are you ready to fight for our communities, for our profession, for our students? Are you ready to fight for the better future we imagine and know is possible? So, together united as educators and unionists, we'll meet this moment. We will fight for the promise of America, and we will let freedom ring from sea to shining sea. Thank you.